We have an epidemic of inequality in this country. Something has to be done. The interests of corporations, the interests of the establishment, the interests of big money are not the interests of working families all across the Commonwealth or across this country. And that's why I am proud to endorse Bernie Sanders today. And Bernie Sanders and I agree on a lot of other issues too that are critical to this country's future, whether it's immigration, whether it's marijuana legalization, whether it's universal pre-K or affordability for college education. We stand together as the most progressive candidates in our respective races. And it's my pleasure and privilege to stand with Bernie and to have Bernie's back.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of We the People. This week we decided to go without music and start off with John Fetterman's endorsement of Bernie Sanders. I could think of nothing more fitting considering he is our guest today. So let's invite and welcome John Fetterman onto the show today. Welcome, John.
Hello, hey.
We're really grateful that you had the time today to come and talk with us. We also have a few other people from Bernie 2016 that are volunteering to help today. We have Pat, who is also from Pennsylvania, who will come on and ask a few questions. And then we also have our comment moderator, John Spalding, and our producer, John Ellis, helping as well today. So what I'd like to do is to take a few minutes to give John a chance to talk about himself. If you want to go through slide 2 and 3 and 4, John, as he discusses who he is and what he's been doing. Many people know who he is, but I think it's best said from him directly. So I'll just turn this over to you now, John.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity to speak with everybody today. My name's John, and I am running for the United States Senate here in Pennsylvania. We have a 3-person race, and I am running as the only candidate in the race to endorse Bernie Sanders. And I would describe myself as the top Pennsylvania surrogate or advocate for Bernie Sanders, here in the Commonwealth. I'm running because I'm mayor of a town in western Pennsylvania that is really at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder. And endorsing Bernie Sanders was an easy choice for me because he's the one that is where I think the party should be, and I think he's where the direction that the party should be headed. And just speaking from my own experience as mayor, we've been combating inequality, we've been combating the war on drugs, mass incarceration, the school-to-prison pipeline, community policing, gun control, gun violence, immigration, LGBT rights. As a mayor, I officiated the first same-sex wedding in Pennsylvania before it was even legal here in Pennsylvania. I don't know if your viewers have seen some of our campaign ads, and one of them describes that. So we are running the most progressive candidacy, certainly, probably in the United States Senate in the country, and I could find a home, unlike any others, endorsing Sanders for president.
Well, actually, we're going to talk a little bit more as well about some of the things in your town that you have done that would speak to that progressive movement you were saying about being more progressive than any other, because I think that you and your wife and many others in the town have actually done quite a bit to really show that taking care of each other, it goes far deeper than just saying hi on the street and making sure the streets are paved properly.
Yeah, or just saying tag phrases just because they poll well, like other candidates are. So yeah, no, it's something that it was like harmonic convergence with our campaign and with Bernie's ascendance to prominence, and his campaign is an inspiration for millions, and we're getting our word out, and it's just been a great campaign because people are really eager and hungry for the message.
Now I mentioned your wife already, so you are a family man. You have 3 children, and your wife Giselle there. You grew up in Braddock, is that correct?
No, I actually I have kind of an unusual story in terms of how I got to be the mayor of an impoverished community in western Pennsylvania. I actually grew up in York, Pennsylvania, which is a community in the south central portion of Pennsylvania, and it's known for being a conservative part of the state. And one of the jokes I tell in the campaign trail is that I hope I'm the first Democrat that my family votes for, because I'm the only Democrat in my family. And my brother was collecting signatures for me for petitions to get on the ballot. And he's like, I'm sitting next to and doing this with a Bernie Sanders volunteer at the market here. I never thought I'd live to see that day, but they've been wildly supportive, and they really actually really respect Bernie and his passion. So so it's unusual how I came from conservative family in South Central Pennsylvania. So I was in graduate school, really kind of sleepwalking through life, I would say, and my best friend was killed in a car accident on his way to come pick me up to go to the gym, and that really, I was 23 at the time, I'm 46 now, so next month it will be 23 years since that tragic accident, and that really gave me a quarter-life crisis, and I really kind of began to reevaluate my priorities in life. So I joined Big Brothers and Big Sisters in order to have something good come from that tragedy, and I was paired up with a little 8-year-old boy whose father had just died from AIDS, and his mother had full-blown AIDS, and she would ultimately pass away about a month after we got paired up. And to me, that was the jarring wake-up call in my own life, and I realized that this country had massive amounts of inequality and disparity, and like, how could I have, you know, 2 parents and a stable upbringing and a graduate degree, and this little boy is an orphan before his 9th birthday, living 6 blocks away from one of the world's most prestigious universities. So that really kind of fried my circuits, and I left the path I was on, quit my job, and I moved to Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, to teach GED classes in the Hill District, which is an African-American community here in Pittsburgh.
Now, you made a huge difference with people by doing that kind of service as well, mentoring others and helping them get their GEDs.
People talk about the school-to-prison pipeline. Well, one of the most crucial aspects of that, in my opinion, is that what happens when a young person does drop out of school or is expelled. If he or she are unable to get their GED, the odds are dramatically improved that they are going to end up with some affiliation or involvement with the criminal justice system, and almost assuredly not be able to properly take care of themselves and their families. So I have helped nearly 1,000 people, predominantly, overwhelmingly of color, get their high school equivalency degree, which is critical from a socioeconomic standpoint because, one, you'll earn over $200,000 over the course of your working life with a GED versus without, but also it opens up the entire world of whether it's going to trade school, whether it's community college, welding training, anything that you need to do in this world to increase your earning power requires a high school diploma or a GED.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when you talk about educational inequality, you mentioned marriage inequality and all these things that are causing people to be like squashed in their liberties, to have their opportunities squashed. A lot of times it seems like it takes a personal experience, like losing someone, like you had mentioned, or seeing someone that you care about losing someone, to realize that the work that we all have to do is continuous and has to keep evolving with the times. Because when we stop helping people and think, oh, we got a great bill through, the money's going to go to the schools, but we don't follow through, that's why we're in this predicament we are now and the times we are in. So.
I decided that in my mid-20s that I wanted to spend my professional career kind of working and fighting against this inequality, as opposed to just making my own circumstances that much more comfortable. I was already born into a very fortunate situation, and through no work of my own, I might add. I call it the random lottery of my birth, where I landed in a prosperous family, and I didn't have to worry about so many issues that millions of other Americans have to contend with on a daily basis, whether that's food insecurity, utilities, paying off student loans, just, their mortgage is underwater. So to me, that was my choice in my mid-20s, to say I'm getting off the path I was on and I'm getting on this one, and it all has kind of culminated in my race for the Senate, and I am here talking to all you guys tonight.
Well, if we want to show slide 6, John, there's a quote you had made, and I think, is this the couple that you had married?
Yeah, I can't, I don't see the slide on my...
We'll show it in just a second for you. There you go. Because in it you said there's the wrong thing and then there's the right thing. I'm always going to choose to do the right thing regardless of the consequence. That is something that I think many Bernie supporters resonate with. And
sure. Well, let me put some context on that quote. This was 2013 in August, and there was I guess, and I mean this, as a hero, a renegade register of wills in Montgomery County in our state, and he began issuing same-sex marriage license. But the problem was there weren't any elected officials that would solemnize them. And I said, well, hell yes, I will. I mean, just bring them out here, and that's exactly what happened. So this wonderful couple came out and approached us, and John and Bill, and they said, hey, will you marry us? And I was overwhelmed and delighted to do so. And there was a lot of fallout from that. The governor at the time, who was a Republican, threatened that there'd be legal ramifications. You're going to find out just how wrong you are. And just the opposite has happened. He lost his reelection bid, and he's teaching, and I'm running for the United States Senate. So, and thankfully, we in this country have marriage equality, but there's still a long way to go for LGBT rights. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running. It's a pillar of why I'm running for the Senate.
Yes, and the more politicians that we have come into office that stand up for those rights, that say enough, stop the way you're treating each other on a daily basis, not only will it help because the laws are aligned with the way socially most of us view the world, but it will help overturn the views that others have where they're closed-minded and they're not seeing the bigger picture, that we are all the same, that we need to be treated.
It's a curious phenomenon. The right, is like the government's the problem. The government is get government out, except when they tell you who you can love, or they tell a woman what she can do with her body. So it's this really kind of weird contrast with the other side, and why on earth anybody could have a reasonable or even unreasonable objection to guys like John and Bill or all the dozens of other couples, same-sex couples I've wed since then. I never understood. They've actually been inspirational models when it comes to marriage. Again, shame on our society that it took this long to achieve it. But I'm ever so glad and grateful that it finally did happen.
And that you were a part of it. Thank you for being a part of it and getting firm and
the most emotional one that I did was a couple that was together for almost 38 years. And I can't imagine the toll that takes on a person or a couple or relationships to not to be able to just to be married. They just want the same that everybody else has. And there's this awful case in Pennsylvania right now of this gay couple together that they actually adopted one another because they never realized that they never thought that we'd ever see a time when we had marriage equality. And now this judge in Allegheny County won't dissolve this adoption so this couple can get married. I mean, how toxic and undignified is it that they actually had to adopt each other so they would have this, the rights to make healthcare choices and access to financial records that heterosexuals have had the entire time, and it's still with us, and again, that's another reason why I would want to run, because I would want to get personally involved in those kind of issues as a senator.
Well, thank you. Hey, John Ellis, would you like to show that video now of the marriage equality when you have a second?
Sure, I can do that.
I've been on record expressing my support for same-sex marriage for quite a while. If a couple as kind and nice as them aren't allowed to, be married, there's just something fundamentally wrong.
It's a first for the Pittsburgh area.
A local mayor now in high demand.
Ignoring state law and marrying a same-sex couple.
Braddock Mayor John Fetterman.
John Fetterman.
I had this incredible opportunity to wed these two fabulous people that had been together, I think, 12 or 13 years at the time. Bring them out to Braddock, and we're going to do that. We were under the legal threat from the governor's office. I never was concerned what performing any of these ceremonies would cost me personally.
I've been waiting for this for a long time.
There's the wrong thing and then there's the right thing, and I'm always going to choose to do the right thing regardless of the consequences. I'm John Fetterman, and I approve this message. I've been on record.
So what I'd like to do before we have John Spalding come on with a couple of questions from the audience is I'd like to invite Pat, who is also from Pennsylvania, to come on and answer that he had for you, John. So let's go ahead and bring him on camera now.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, Pat, how are you? Where are you in the state?
I'm up here in Meadville.
Oh,
Yes.
Voodoo Brewery. I spoke at Allegheny College recently, so yeah, great state.
Got great support here at Allegheny College, and I missed.
Back up there actually this weekend. We're doing a Northwest tour on Saturday, so we'll be up in the area on Saturday.
Yeah, I saw you're coming to Sharon. I have to work, unfortunately. I'm not going to be able to catch you there. But as long as you keep tweeting out where you're going to be, I will catch up with you.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, you do have a lot of support up here with Allegheny College. Lots of Fetterman signs up here. It's a great privilege that you came up here and is spending your time with us today. I just had some couple of questions here.
Sure.
I was looking over, and that's inspirational about your marriage equality. And the one thing that it came to me is that if we build an environment of marriage equality in our society, it builds our society. And I love your take on that. I think it's very moving that we have somebody of your caliber representing our state. Really appreciate it.
That's really nice of you to say, and to me, it was a situation that I never could understand why anybody would want to keep same-sex couples from loving who they love and just giving them the same rights and equality that we all have had. Right.
Exactly. I was doing a little bit of research on to get prepared for this tonight. I was looking at you did a debate at the Mellon University, CMU, and I was just wondering, where are you at on the polls right now? With
poll-wise, I'm tied for second place in the race, and we're tied with a person who is the pick of the establishment in this, that has the backing of all the established political figures and the former governor and the current governor, and they're really trying to sell. This story, but it's really having little effect, and we've closed the gap, and we're now tied for second place in the polls, and the race is going really well, actually. So
very good. That's great. So what is your strategy from here on to improve your numbers in the polls?
Sure. Well, at the end of the day, we count on grassroots donors the way Bernie Sanders does. So we don't have big dollar donors. We don't have big millionaire and billionaire fundraisers, and that's how we're running our campaign. It's grassroots, and I'm mayor of an extremely poor town, so there's not a lot of $2,700 checks coming in from Braddock. And that's a result of the life and the position that I chose. So we're at a distinct financial disadvantage, but we do have a strong base of grassroots supporters. We hope to grow that. We hope to be able to welcome Bernie to Pennsylvania for the primary. I know his amazing win in Michigan has put all of the Rust Belt states in play, and Pennsylvania is a great example of that. So we're really just counting on the grassroots. When it's other politicians, it's a cliche or it's an insult to the term, but this really is a grassroots campaign, and it's funded by our donors. And I think our average donor amount is it's $27. Yeah,
I've heard that number before.
$24.16. I just asked.
Okay.
Yeah,
there you go.
$24.16 is our average donor. So, and we also do something unique too, is that we, to the best of our ability, we call every donor to our campaign, and that takes a lot of time. But at the end of the day, it reminds people that it's like they say, I've given to campaigns, but I've never heard back from a candidate. And how crazy is that? We're grateful to our supporters. We have an incredibly robust social media presence that's twice the size of our competitors, and we're really running a grassroots campaign here.
Right. You say that it's like a financial disadvantage because you don't have all that backing, but I think in this environment, and we're seeing this with Bernie, that's a positive now.
Yeah, well, I'm not complaining. My competitor has every endorsement and their, you know,
You go ahead, John.
Oh, my competitor has every endorsement and high ticket fundraisers, and we're tied with her at the polls. So it's not money that's going to drive this. So I'm proud of our grassroots donors, and I think as more and more people start paying attention to the race and more people start following, we had a rally for Bernie in Pittsburgh 2 weekends ago. We had over 1,000 people downtown. It's nothing but encouraging in terms of the race.
Well, we'll be sure to make sure we share on mass media or social media. You know, get your name out there. To all of our viewers, I just wanted to let you know that you still have time to make comments or ask questions of John during our show. We're going to call on John Spalding now and bring him on. He's going to mention a few of those comments and questions for John. And then if you have anything to say about any of these issues throughout and you wanted to get in contact, we'll also show his website, his Twitter, and he's also on Instagram and Facebook. So, John Spalding, why don't we see what people have been saying?
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Angela. Hey, John. Hey, everybody out there in the audience.
Hi, John.
We got some good chat things going on in Twitter on Bernie 2016 TV and from our YouTube chat. Mickey Lynch said that they're sold. Okay, I'm sold. We'll be donating tonight.
Thank you, Mickey.
Yeah. Our first question's from John Whitkiss. He led the conversation off saying John Fetterman did not give up on a failing city. He's amazing. And his question is, what's the most effective way to keep a small city from going under?
I would say just being a fierce and tireless advocate. You know, Braddock's survival is contingent on us forming partnerships and, you know, with nonprofits, with private industry, with outside donors. I mean, the money wasn't coming from within, and it wasn't coming from local government exclusively. So, you know, the biggest advocate, and I wouldn't call it a secret, but it's like just you're constantly hustling for your town, and that's why I'm running for the United States Senate. Is that I want to be the kind of champion for all of Pennsylvania's forgotten cities, the way I have been for Braddock, and there are so many of them across Pennsylvania, and it's amazing that the last presidential Democratic debate was held in Flint, Michigan, and you know, who would have ever thought that? And Flint is just a bigger version of Braddock, and it's a town that had its back collectively turned on it, and it's just the Sanders campaign and the Sanders message just resonates so deeply, and you know, we are emblematic of the injustice that Bernie Sanders is railing against in his campaign here in town.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, John. And
one more question, John Spalding, before we move on to our next section.
Okay, yeah, this one's from Def Leopards. It says for John.
Def Leopard, all right. Is that the band? I wish I still had my mullet. All right.
How did I know you were going to like the name of that guy?
Oh, man, how do you not like it? I'm sure it's a pun, but, you know, good old Def Leopard.
So he wants to know, how are you going to win over the Sestak voters?
Well, the way I look at it is that I haven't been running here for the last 8 years the way Joe Sestak has been. And I believe that of the three people in this race, I have the best chance of beating Pat Toomey. And the head of the Democratic Party has said as much. And I just believe that we are running a true alternative. There's just that same kind of talk. It's like, well, Bernie can't. It's like, actually, that's not true. The poll doesn't bear that out. And we know that we can beat Pat Toomey in a one-on-one matchup. And that's our pitch to the Sestak voter, is that I have never seen a poll in 8 years where Joe has been able to beat Pat Toomey. And Joe's a good guy. He's a hard worker, but he's, in my opinion anyway, he's too militarily focused, and he doesn't have Pat Toomey figured out. And that's our pitch. And Joe is also not a true progressive, in my opinion, especially on things like immigration. He also doesn't support a $15 an hour living wage. So Joe is not what I would call progressive. He's certainly left-leaning compared to Republicans, but he is by no means what I would describe as a progressive.
Cool. Thanks, John.
Well, as we go into this next segment, one of the things that we wanted to talk about with you is inequality. And that's such a big word, but it encompasses so many issues that we have that we are dealing with on a regional, local level, all the way up to state and federal levels. So slides, let's see, 7 and 8, and I think 9 and 10, John, you can just kind of filter through as we're talking with John about this. But I wanted to ask you, John, when it comes to inequality, I know that we're addressing Pennsylvania. What top inequality issue are you going to want to address to help people? Because there's a lot of issues involved, but I would love to give you the chance to talk about any one of them, but let's pick one to start.
Geez, I don't know if I could pick a top one. You know, the thing that infuriates me or has really got me upset is when Hillary Clinton said, "I'm not a one-topic, candidate." And if you think that's what inequality is just one topic, then you don't get it, and you don't realize how pervasive inequality is and how it deeply affects all kinds of issues, even our drinking water, as it turns out, in this country. And for example, in Pennsylvania has, I believe, 15 or 16 cities with lead poisoning rates many times higher than that of Flint, Michigan, and no one's doing anything or talking about that. So in terms of the inequalities that I would attack as senator, I mean, how much more fundamental does it get than lead poisoning in your blood or our education system? We don't have a crisis in public education in this state if you live in the right zip code, but you sure have one if you live in the, quote, wrong zip code, which I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but that's our zip code, 15104, and we are part of a very troubled school district, and that is the inequality that needs to be addressed. There's just so many. The war on drugs and the incarceration rate of people of color. I mean, there's just so many that issues that need to be addressed, and that's why that's again why I'm running and why it was an easy slam dunk to endorse Bernie Sanders for president.
Yes, when we talk about being progressive and being a progressive candidate, it seems like we're really defining it in this election year, what it means to be progressive, doesn't it? It's just...
And Bernie's helping define that too. You know, you examine the rhetoric that was coming out of the Clinton camp, even last year, and you compare it to now, and Bernie's really moved the needle and to where the party should be. You know, there have been recent elections where candidates running for the Senate wouldn't even say whether they voted for the Obama or not. I mean, just that kind of, I guess I would call that cowardice. And that's what's so compelling about Bernie for me, or one of the many things, is that he's loud and proud about his values and his beliefs. And that's the way we've run our campaign. If somebody wants to know what I think on an issue, there it is. It's not, well, this but not that. It's like, well, no, we're straightforward. We don't hide behind media reps or anything. It's like this venue. It's like here, we've done Reddit MAAs. And 2 now, so yeah, we're out there and I'm proud to be so.
Well, thank you again so much for coming on today too, and for discussing with us live, because it is a different experience to put yourself out there this very second. I could sneeze on camera and blow out the sound system, and there's nothing we could do about it.
Well,
but
that's okay, because I can have 3 screaming kids and a dog come running out of that door. So, in fact, I see one in the background running.
Mine are hiding quietly too. So we're trying to put on a show for John here, right?
So sneeze away, because I have a feeling that August, that's my son in the background there.
Well, we want to, speaking of families, what we want to do now is we wanted to talk about an inequality that actually has impacted a lot of people in this country, including your wife, Giselle, and that's the difficulty of just being able to legally be here. The hoops that people have to jump through, the amount of money they have to do it. So what I'd like to do is...
Constant threat of deportation, too. I mean, yeah. I can't imagine how taxing and stressful that must be to live with that fear every day.
Yeah. So we're going to show a video now. This is of Giselle, his wife's story, and some immigration issues.
I'm so grateful that I never had to make that choice between where I grew up and having to just be given a suitcase and saying, you've got half an hour to pick your favorite things. Put your entire life into one little suitcase and take this huge leap of faith. At one point in time, we all came from a boat somewhere. Immigration is what made this country great, and immigration is what's continuing to help this country grow. People are coming to this country simply looking for a better life and a chance to contribute. Giselle was originally from Brazil. Her mother brought her here when she was 9, looking for a better life. You know, I was asked, your wife's family broke the law. What do you think of that? And I said, well, I'm so grateful that they did. Because if they didn't have the courage to take that step, I wouldn't have the 3 beautiful children that I have today. We as a society take a step backwards if we do anything but embrace the people that are here and create effective laws and paths to citizenship for people coming into our country.
So these videos that we're showing today on our show, you can also find them on John Fetterman's YouTube channel, and you can see extended versions.
They've been running statewide too. So we've
okay, great.
we were the first campaign to be up all across the state on television, and so yeah, the ads really spell it out. And I also think it also needs to be said too that unlike competitors' ads, like we don't use actors, we don't invent narratives, we don't have me in a hard hat in a fake factory talking to actors. You know, these are true stories, and this is what I stand for. And you know, every one of our commercials and spots, the ones that you have and the ones that are forthcoming, are all shot here in the area and use real people and stories because that's how we've done it. Unlike my other people in this race.
Yeah, and, you know, a lot of politicians actually, we've all gotten so used to them, you know, making stuff up, making up their stories, paying people to stand behind them and in front of them, pretending to be excited, and we're over that. That's part of the progressive movement.
What I'm trying to say is that we used the group that did those commercials for us went up going and producing the campaign commercial for Bernie Sanders, the one that featured Eric Garner's family. So we're working with amazing people that get it, that you have to actually tell real stories with real people instead of actors in weird circumstances having fake conversations saying we get stuff done, and it's all bogus, and our ads are as grassroots and authentic as our campaign is, or reflecting of.
And a lot of the ads too, a lot of these people's stories are very shocking. You know, that's the one thing is that I think most people sometimes think that, oh, they're making that up, or that because it's a politician's. But in Bernie Sanders' case, in your case, in many progressive candidates' cases, these advertisements are actually someone's real story that they're really dealing with.
You have that picture of Bernie being arrested, protesting. It's like, do you think that was he's like, okay, in 40 years I'm going to be running for president. I want to get a picture of myself getting arrested. It's like, you know, that authenticity comes through, and that's why it's created this incredible momentum that the likes of which no one's ever seen before in American politics, and it's so authentic and inspiring, and we demand and project the same from our own race. Yeah.
So John Spalding, do we have any comments or questions for John Fetterman right now?
Oh, you busted me. I was just typing our ads are as authentic as our campaign in the YouTube chat. So yeah, there's definitely some questions. Nigel wants to know, how's the race shaping up in Pennsylvania? Is it keeping focused on the issues or trending towards the typical politics as usual?
No, the race is shoring up nicely. We're tied for second place here in Pennsylvania, and this is especially amazing because the person that I'm tied with is the establishment's pick, and they've had literally every advantage thrown at them: big dollar fundraisers, establishment endorsements. And they've tried to do the same thing to me that they're trying to do to Bernie, and we're hanging tight with an opponent that's been able to raise a lot more establishment money and getting these endorsements that really don't have anything behind them thrown at them. So we're right in the middle of it, and as I mentioned earlier, Nigel, we're a grassroots funded campaign. Our average donor is $24.16. So, and that's how we get by. We don't have millionaires and billionaires weighing in. I don't have favors to trade as the mayor of one of the poorest towns in Pennsylvania. So people that are donating to my campaign are doing so because they believe that A, we can win, and B, that that we have the right message, and that there's a purity in that is lacking in other candidates, because there isn't anything that I can do for them. You know, I say that I'm a mayor of a poor town. I can't do anything to you or for you, and that takes a lot of people out of this transactional nature of campaign donations in politics, and I wouldn't want it any other way. It's strictly a grassroots kind of affair.
Yeah, I bet it's hard on one end, but very empowering on the other end. I'll definitely.
You nailed it. It absolutely is hard. It is absolutely hard. But I don't ever want to pay more attention to somebody with a $2,700 check than I do with somebody that is giving me $27. That's not what democracy is. But that's what a lot of Citizens United has forced on elected officials, and to me, that is one of the most important things that we can do. And I have litmus tests for any Supreme Court nominees that I would vote on potentially as senator. And I agree with Bernie Sanders, is that we've got to get rid of Citizens United. That is, I think, priority number one, because that money permeates everything down all the way to candidates' way they spend their days.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, John. It's so refreshing on how well you are being a good progressive and able to speak your message. Nikola Tesla wanted to know, is Pennsylvania becoming more progressive, and do they know about you and Bernie?
Sure. Well, yeah, Pennsylvania is becoming more progressive, and we have this scourge known as gerrymandering in our state, whereas in 2010 there was kind of like a mass wave of Republicans. They took over the governor's office in both the state and the Senate, and unfortunately that's the redistricting year. And they gerrymandered these districts and gave the Republicans a 31-vote majority. So they created all of these this artificial majority here. But that doesn't represent the true makeup of Pennsylvania, and it is becoming much more progressive. And we are getting out. I mean, this is my first statewide race. I haven't been running for 8 years like Joe Sestak, or I'm not off shopping the way McGinty did, where she ran for governor and got 7% statewide in 2014. So, but we were in Philadelphia a couple days ago, and we can't walk in grocery stores, in parks, in brew pubs without people coming up and recognizing us and saying, hey, you got our support. So our message is getting out. In order to get that message out more, we need more and more small dollar donors. I'm making an appeal to anyone watching, is that's what keeps those ads that you've been nice enough to show so far up.
Where do they donate?
JohnFetterman.com. We use ActBlue.
Thanks, because I was getting yelled at, like, with capital letters.
Yeah, and like I said, our average donor is under $25, and that's how we get by. And I think it's difficult, but it's also gratifying too. I'm proud of that fact, and that's how we're running the race, and that's how, like I said, we're tied for second, and that's extraordinary given the amount of resources and endorsements that are being leveled at one of my opponents.
Well, we're going to help you move into first for sure this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
The stuff you're doing in Braddock is pretty amazing. So we wanted to show a video that you have of Braddock. And then I'd love for you to talk a little bit when we come back. We'll talk with Pat a little bit more about Pennsylvania, but maybe you can tell us some of the things specifically in Braddock that you guys have been doing that I think are really profound, that speak to the bigger progressive picture in the country. So we'll show the video first.
It must have felt like the end of the world. Almost half the world's steel was produced here in this valley. It just created tens of thousands of jobs. The mills fell like dominoes. Thousands of people, thrown out of work, families left without a blueprint or a path. People warned me, like, oh, are you sure you want to go to Braddock? Are you. And what I found was just the opposite. It was an incredibly welcoming community that was just in need of somebody to get involved. We've taken on a degree of challenges here. It's unmatched in any community in Pennsylvania. And bringing basic amenities that most people in this country take for granted, getting your hands dirty. And we feed people every day here. We help clothe families. practical things that matter to people, helping young people get their GEDs. We help, keep the town safe, creating a stable place for people to begin to reinvest. We've been able to prove that if you build a smart business in Braddock, people will come and you'll actually be able to thrive. If a community that has lost so much as Braddock has can get to that place, then any community can. And if there's a lesson to be taken from Braddock, is that no community deserves to be abandoned, no community deserves to be left behind, and it can always get better. And in fact, there's a moral obligation that it should. It's been a long process. 10 years as mayor. Braddock is a roadmap to begin to build it back up, to build a stronger Pennsylvania. I want to be able to do more for not only my community, but also, my Commonwealth here.
So in that video, you said that Braddock is a roadmap, and I would love for you to just tell us a little bit more about what you meant when you said that.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, I want people to understand just how severe the circumstances were on the ground here in Braddock. It was, without a doubt, certainly the poorest community in Western Pennsylvania, and more than likely in the state. And we were starting really essentially from zero. In fact, I would say from a deficit, because Braddock had this reputation of where you're like, oh, you just didn't want to go there. It was a place where you wanted to avoid. And we started in 2001, so we've been here for now 15 years, and we started working with young people and helping them get their GEDs. And then those same people that I was lucky enough to work with and serve ended up running, they helped me run for mayor that first time, and I won that first election by 1 vote. I mean, it sounds like a Lifetime TV movie, but it's true. You had all these young people that never really cared about politics or were registered to vote, ended up doing just that and made that difference of winning by that 1 vote. And since 2005, when we won, we've been taking on issues that are all centered around inequality. And we have worked on affordable housing. We have worked on access to health care. The hospital in our town closed in 2009, 2010, and we were able to restore access to health care with one of the nicest urgent care facilities in the state. We have created a highly effective community policing model that has drastically reduced crime. In fact, we went 5.5 years without the loss of life in our town as well. And we did that without incurring any kind of significant civilian complaints, and certainly no allegations of police brutality or misconduct or shootings. So, and then my wife, who has developed, it's called the Free Store, and I encourage viewers to check that out. And we have eliminated food and clothing insecurity in our community, and it didn't cost anybody anything. We're able to distribute first quality food and clothing to residents, not just in Braddock, but in the area that need these kind of items. And in fact, we're the only community that I know of where if you're a young mother, young parents, you never have to go without diapers, clothing, food, anything that you would need for your child. We have mechanisms in place to make sure that never happens. And then finally, one of the other things that we've done, and this is more of a niche, well, 2 things. We created the largest summer employment program here in Allegheny County that gave young people jobs. I mean, Bernie has talked about the unemployment rate of African Americans during his campaign speech, and we noticed the same things, and we started that back in 2006. So, opening playgrounds, building basketball courts, all these things that we had to start from zero. We partnered with Levi's, and we built a community center. So we've had this entire kind of grassroots building up of this community, and that's what's led to this campaign. And I call that a roadmap, because if things in Braddock can get better, there's really no reason why, with the proper investment, that every community in Pennsylvania can get better.
I think it sounds like from the history of your mayorship there has been quite moving for the people there, the community there, and the state, as far as creating a town that has become desirable not only to the people who live there, but people that want to visit.
I mean, I also want to emphasize we still have a long way to go. And people say, well, if you win, what's going to happen to Braddock? And I say, well, I'm not going anywhere. I live here with my family, and we're probably always going to live here. That's the reason why I'm running is that if I do win, I would be able to direct so many more resources and so much more attention to Braddock and communities like it. So I would have never joined this race if I had to resign my position here, because ultimately, it's either this or I'm just going to go back to being mayor, because that's really all I ever wanted to do. I've never thought of myself as a politician. I'm much more of a social worker that chose elective office to pursue the things that I care about.
Well, I think what we'll do is we'll bring Pat on in just a second to ask you a question. I just wanted to thank you for sharing with us a little bit more deeply about what Braddock has been going through and what you've done, because a lot of people have heard about Bernie Sanders and what he's done in Vermont, what he's done in Burlington, and Burlington, and I really think that it's important.
A weird coincidence. My wife and I eloped in 2008, and guess where we eloped to? Burlington, Vermont. So 8 years later, I'm endorsing the former mayor there for president. So yeah, it's been Burlington's a beautiful city, and it was a very special time.
Well, awesome. Well, here's Pat, and he'll ask you a question or two at this point.
All right. I'll tell you what, Angela, you're doing an awesome job. You've got a lot of my questions that I was going to ask him. He's already answered, and you're just doing a really good job of getting that information out. John, you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely, right here.
Okay, good. I'm a little fascinated about your tattoos, actually, and I think that stems from your empathy and your personal responsibility of the position that you have. I was wondering if you could tell the viewers about your tattoos.
Sure. Well, the one that stems from my sense of responsibility and duty to the community is this one right here. That's Braddock zip code 15104 on my other arm, and the tattoos on my other arm are, I don't know if the camera can see that. Those are dates when people have been murdered in my community since I've been mayor. And that's not empathy as much as it is heartbreak, because as a small town mayor, I was at the scene of every one of them, and they were all African American, and they were all senseless. They didn't, there wasn't anything of any value that was involved that led to these tragedies. And I started doing that because the first one had such a profound impact on the way I looked at the world, as I just felt like I wanted to do something that it represented the same thing of what it did to my mind, where I just seeing a 36-year-old man shot delivering pizzas in my community, and that was 2 weeks into taking office, and that was the big wake-up call that really forced me to confront this issue, and ultimately we did have success with it. But each one of those stories comes with a tragedy, and that to me is the single biggest motivating factor in what I do, is that to never have your phone ring at 2 o'clock in the morning and know that there's something awful on the other end waiting.
Right. I can kind of relate to that as a paramedic. I see this, and it's hard. It's hard.
You see it every day, yeah.
And it's so frustrating because you see the senselessness of it.
Oh,
and
it's never about anything meaningful. And and to me, these aren't headlines. These aren't just, well, this is a blurb on the evening news. Like these people have lives. These people had a life, and it's gone, and that it just needs to be acknowledged and remembered and prevented in the future.
And I see this sometimes in the attitude of some people is like, well, they deserve it because they're it's just frustrating.
And if I ran through the dates on my arms, the majority of them had nothing to do with any kind of activities. They just were the senseless victim of cruelty or man's inhumanity to man.
Right.
And the one in particular that absolutely has broken my heart was a little girl, and we actually named the community center after Anaya Page. So it's anyone that thinks it's just a bunch of gangbangers or this horrible rhetoric that comes from the other side. Now these are mostly innocents that had their lives taken from them in an unbelievably cruel and senseless manner.
Now you talked about having them like how we need to change things. You said that you had some success in the police force there, as far as policing. Can you describe what things would be different so that others know that from other states what changes you guys have made?
You have to set the standard. Where is that I don't assume that police are the problem. Police need to be the solution, because ultimately they are a critical partner in restoring law and safety and this sense of security that allows other good things to happen in your town. I don't care how much press or how much somebody wants to move to your town. If they don't feel safe for whatever reason, they're not going to invest. So the police are an important part of the dialogue, and we were able to get rid of the police officers that shouldn't have been on the force. And we have a great police officer that shares my views on things, and have brought on other officers throughout the years that understand that that arrest is always the last choice that we want to use. And our goal is to have both sides walk away with their dignity intact, and de-escalation is the watchword. And overall, that has worked really well for us, and the community has responded by electing me now three separate times with increasingly more and more large margins. And that's what I'm proud to say is that we have hired officers that I know treat our citizens the way they deserve to be treated, but they also can keep the community safe as well. And an understanding that you can only have true success in this area is if you have the consent of the people that you're policing, and you have a police department that understands that de-escalation, like not everything needs to be addressed, not everything needs to be escalated. And you saw that with Sandra Bland, like a burned out turn signal escalated to her untimely death, and it just doesn't have to work that way, and it shouldn't work that way.
I wanted to say thank you, Pat, for asking some questions. We're going to go ahead and bring John Spalding on and see if we have any final comments or questions before we give you some final moments, John Fetterman. So, John Spalding, if you have anything that you wanted to add.
I do. There was a great question from Amy Smith. She wants to know, do you believe in co-op factories and municipal ownership to lower community taxes?
I mean, I'm open to anything. I'm a huge fan and supporter of the local food co-op here in Pittsburgh. We've brought urban agriculture to Braddock. We have a 2-acre urban farm that provides summer jobs for our young people during the growing season. And since we don't have a grocery store in town, it provides quality organic produce during the summer. So that's worked out through kind of a co-op arrangement. In terms of lowering taxes, it hasn't lowered our taxes, but in terms of creative solutions, we've had to employ a bunch of different ones here in Braddock, and we are working our way out of this giant hole that circumstances like free trade and other things really dug for us, years and years ago. So it's been a long, hard journey, but I think a very worthwhile and meaningful one, and we're heading in the right direction, but still, of course, have a long way to go.
Cool, thanks, John. Everyone's really commenting on your authenticity, from the ads to just from you being here today and just the way you're answering questions.
Yeah. Can I just say that I'm running the ad of a candidate that I would want to vote for, and I just believe in being that guy that I would want to vote for, and I don't. I appreciate all their comments, and I wanted that to come through in our logo, in our ads, in the people that are on our campaign staff, and we answer our own tweets, we post our own Facebook stuff, we answer our own emails, we thank donors, and we try to be the opposite of what is so unpleasant in American politics today.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, John. Angela, I'd say that's about it as far as the questions. So you did a great job, John. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, John Spalding, for doing Comment Mod today. And also thank you, Pat, so much for coming on and asking some questions about Pennsylvania.
Appreciate it.
So with those few minutes that we have, we wanted to cover a few quick bits of information. Slide 17, John, is of the Pennsylvania primary. We have the voting will be on April 26th, and it's a closed primary. So we want to make sure everybody knows in Pennsylvania what the day is so that they're not missing out on voting for Bernie. And
well,
also,
the great thing is that on the day you can vote for Bernie, you can vote for us as well, too.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. That was awesome. So yes, please vote for John. And also I wanted to say too, you can go to voteforbernie.org if you're wanting to find out more about your state if you're not from Pennsylvania. The other slide that we have, it's got a couple of different websites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube where you can find John Fetterman online. Please go and donate today. He uses ActBlue. If you already have your info in there, it's super easy to donate on a regular basis even, maybe monthly. So please consider that.
Yeah, again, I want to emphasize to your viewers, we do it grassroots just the way Bernie does. And if you're going to give Bernie 50, consider throwing 10 our way because we need your support to keep our ads on the air and to fight back against this establishment process that is trying to drown out an authentic progressive voice in this race, but they haven't been able to do that so far.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what I wanted to do is just, John, this is the last few minutes that we have before we do one final video, which is a fun little new Bernie rap out there. I just wanted to give you a second to address anything else with viewers or voters that you wanted to express before we end today.
Sure. I just would like to thank you for your time and thank you all for having me on. And it's been a lot of fun and it's been a pleasure to talk about our race. And really my takeaway message is that you see, what you get is what you see is what you get, and we need all of your grassroots support and help to finance our campaign. We can't do it without you. Don't want to do it without you. And as long as you're able to continue those kind of small dollar donations, we are able to stay in this, and we believe ultimately win this, especially when Bernie comes to Pennsylvania to win Pennsylvania, and I know he can, especially after his amazing victory in Michigan. So thank you for your support. Our website is johnfetterman.com. Our Twitter handle is @JohnFetterman. And of course, we're on Facebook and we have a really robust social media presence. We're very interactive and I answer my own tweets and proud to say we're very active and we're also very grateful and appreciative of our donors and grassroots supporters.
Thanks again so much for coming on the show today, John. And if you ever want to come back and be interviewed again, or just we have some other different avenues that we can get your word out. So please keep in touch. So what I'd like to do is we're going to show this last video. It's a fun Bernie rap. So like I said last week, if you feel like getting up and dancing, nobody's going to be watching, but we'll all be dancing with you. So we hope that you guys will come back next week for our next show. And we thanks again to John Ellis and to John Spalding. And to Pat for also helping out today. And we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's time for a political revolution. Feel the burn, go bananas, we about to set some standards. If you wanna see a change, vote for Bernie Sanders. You got questions, he got answers, we don't need more propaganda. Everybody get on out and vote for Bernie Sanders. Feel the burn, go bananas, we about to set some standards. If you wanna see a change, vote for Bernie Sanders. You got questions, he got answers, if you sick of propaganda, then you better get on out and vote for Bernie Sanders. Feel the burn, go bananas, we ain't taking no more damage. If you ready, raise your hand, it's time to save our planet. A brand new way must be established, cause if we don't manage to take a stand right now, then we will never see this corruption vanish. See the problem? We got too much famine and not enough feasting. The system is feeding the greed with the middle class shrinking. So the only ones eating are a chosen few. They sit back with an ocean view, while the poor go to work and still lose their homes. And if they do go to college and get a degree, they can't even pay back their student loans. We put trust in the ones that always do us wrong. The whole system is rigged and it's getting old. All these super PACs got too much influence, so please get on board with this grassroots movement. If you want to see a huge improvement, then let's unite and do what's right. We can bridge the gap or just keep on sitting back and letting bad guys win the fight. So let's feel the burn, go bananas, we about to set some standards. If you wanna see a change, vote for Bernie Sanders. You got questions, he got answers. We don't need more propaganda. Everybody get on out and vote for Bernie Sanders. Feel the burn, go bananas. We about to set some standards. If you wanna see a change, vote for Bernie Sanders. You got questions, he got answers. If you sick of propaganda, then you better get on out and vote for Bernie Sanders. This ain't a song, it's a celebration. Ain't about time for some innovation. What we need to do is spend less on wars and put more funds toward education. If you work, you deserve good wages. The poverty percentage is so outrageous. Shady candidates get large donations from these super PACs, and it's way too dangerous. I support any legislation that will make it fair when it comes to campaigning. And by the way, I'm from Flint, and I too call for Rick Snyder's resignation. I admire Bernie's dedication to the fine people of this greatest nation. When somebody's sick, they should never have trouble trying to see a doc and get the right medication. I'm for universal health care, and I support free tuition at public college. We need somebody honest who can fight terrorists without the government spying on all of its citizens. And we need to improve the way that we deal with our immigrants. Better care for our veterans. No pathetic rhetoric. The benefits of a president like Senator Sanders would be so massive. Imagine the level of fairness. Can't no one compare. If we cherish America, then we must learn from our errors. Bernie's the POTUS we need. This ain't no utopian dream. This is the moment of hope, so be vocal. Oppose the machine and let's vote as a team. Feel the burn, go bananas. We about to set some standards. If you wanna see a change, vote for Bernie Sanders. You got questions, he got answers. We don't need more propaganda. Everybody get on out and vote for Bernie Sanders. Feel the burn, go bananas. We about to set some standards. If you wanna see a change, vote for Bernie Sanders. You got questions, he got answers. If you sick of propaganda, then you better get on out and vote for Bernie Sanders.
This business because I have 4 beautiful kids and I have 7 beautiful grandchildren. And like you, I want to make sure that the world that we leave them is a beautiful world where people can live full and dignified lives. I don't want to see a world where people are struggling and stepping all over each other. And we can do it. We can provide health care to all of our people. We can create decent paying jobs. We can reverse climate change and transform our energy system. We can raise wages. We can make sure that every person in this country gets the education they need and desire. This is not some type of utopian dream. It can happen. It really can. But it will not happen unless we stand up and fight back for not only ourselves, but for our kids and future generations. Let's do it.
Huge